All right, ready for another deep dive? This time we're tackling X-rays, which, by the way, was a request from you.
Oh, that's great to hear. X-rays are fascinating, a really powerful tool.
I'll say. It's like having superpowers, seeing right through things.
Yep.
But how did we figure out how to do that? I mean, how did we go from, whoa, magic, to actually using them to see inside the human body?
Yeah, it's a bit of a wild ride, actually. Starts with physics, but don't worry, I'll keep it interesting.
Good, because physics and I, well, we have a complicated relationship.
Fair enough. So picture this. Tiny, tiny particles, smaller than you can imagine, launched at super speed, almost the speed of light, in fact, towards a target made of really dense metal.
Okay, I'm picturing it. What happens next?
Well, that collision, it releases a ton of energy, and that energy, that's our X-rays.
So basically, a powerful crash equals a powerful beam of energy. Makes sense. But how do we control those X-rays? Don't want them flying all over the place.
Right. Control is key, just like aiming a flashlight in a dark room. The light spreads out, right? Now, put your hand over part of the light, what happens?
It makes a more focused beam.
Exactly. And that's similar to what the collimator does in an X-ray machine. It's basically a shield with openings that can be adjusted to shape and direct the X-ray beam. That way, the X-rays hit the right spot, and we're not just flooding the room with radiation.
So it's all about precision.
Exactly. Precision is key. Now, once those X-rays pass through, say, a body part, they hit a detector.
Hold on, back up a sec. How does the invisible beam actually become an image? It's not like we can see X-rays.
Ah, good point. You see, different parts of our body absorb different amounts of X-ray energy. Bones are dense, right? So they absorb a lot, and that shows up as white on the X-ray image. Softer tissues, like organs, absorb less, so they show up in shades of gray.
So it's like a high-tech shadow puppet show, but with X-rays instead of light.
You got it. And over time, we've gone from using film, like old school cameras, to digital detectors, which are so much faster and give us these crystal clear images.
It's like upgrading from a flip phone to the latest smartphone. Way better. But let's back up again. The story of how X-rays were discovered is almost as cool as the tech itself.
Oh, definitely. It all starts back in 1895 with a scientist named Wilhelm Röntgen, who was doing some experiments with these things called cathode rays, basically beams of electrons.
I'm sensing a light bulb moment. What happened?
Well, Röntgen, he was a super meticulous guy, very careful. Anyway, he's in his lab doing his thing when he notices something really strange. He had this fluorescent screen, and it started glowing whenever his cathode ray tube was on.
Even though it was covered. That's kind of creepy.
I know, right? It was covered with thick cardboard, too. So he knew there was something invisible passing through it and making that screen light up. Talk about a mystery.
What did he think it was? Aliens?
He had no idea. It was a completely new kind of radiation, something no one had ever seen before. Being a scientist, he obviously had to investigate further,
So
right?
Doris, you got to follow the science.
And this is where the story gets even better. He called his wife into the lab.
Oh, no, don't tell me. He used his wife's hand for the first X-ray.
Bingo. He put her hand on a photographic plate, zapped it with those mysterious rays, and when he developed the plate, bam, the world's first X-ray image.
Showing all the bones in her hand. And if I remember correctly, her wedding ring, too. I can't imagine being Mrs. Röntgen. Seeing that for the first time must have been mind-blowing. Seeing inside the human body without cutting it open. Talk about a game changer.
Right, and it completely revolutionized how we think about medicine.
And he called them X-rays because, well, they were a mystery. X marks the spot, or in this case, the unknown.
Exactly. It was a fitting name, and the discovery, it was huge. Hospitals all over the world started using X-rays really quickly.
Doctors must have been thrilled. Think about it. Finally, a way to see what's going on inside without having to perform surgery. No more guessing games.
Exactly. Before X-rays, diagnosing internal problems, it was way more hands-on.
Hands-on meeting.
It means doctors relied on what they could feel with their hands, listening to sounds, even using instruments to poke around inside.
Ouch. Doesn't sound very accurate.
It wasn't, to be honest. Diagnoses were often like best guesses and treatments. Well, they were more limited and much riskier back then.
Yeah, no kidding. A huge difference. X-rays were a total game changer.
Absolutely. Imagine trying to set a bone, really complicated break, but you can't actually see where the fracture is. Yikes.
Yeah, it's asking for trouble.
Yeah.
Makes the whole seeing inside thing a lot clearer.
Hmm.
Speaking of which, didn't I read about a case back in the early 1900s where a kid fell out of a tree, hurt his arm? Doctors thought it was a sprain, but the X-ray showed it was a fracture. A bad one. Needed surgery.
See. Perfect example. What could have been a terrible situation, maybe even life-threatening with the wrong diagnosis, became a routine thing thanks to X-rays.
It's amazing how many lives have been touched by this one discovery. But X-rays, they're not just for hospitals anymore, right?
Nope, not at all. Remember how we were talking about X-rays passing through different things, like to different degrees?
Yeah.
That's a key part of why they're useful in other ways, not just peering inside us.
Okay, now you've got me curious. Where else do we find X-rays?
Let's see, something I bet you encounter all the time. Airport security.
You mean those scanners we walk through?
Those are using X-rays to see right through your bags, spotting anything hidden.
No way. I always wondered about that. So it's not just looking for, like, metal. It can see everything.
Pretty much. Different materials, they show up as different shades on the screen, helps security tell if something's a threat, like giving them X-ray vision, right?
That's wild. And super important for keeping everyone safe when they travel.
Exactly. And that's not all. X-rays are crucial in manufacturing, too, especially for checking important parts, airplane components, bridges, that kind of thing.
So, like, finding those tiny cracks that could cause major problems later.
You got it. It's about making sure those structures are sound, preventing huge disasters, like
Yeah.
giving those things a checkup, making sure everything's A-okay.
Wow. From our bones to our planes, X-rays are everywhere.
For real. And they even help us understand the past. Archaeologists, art historians, they use X-rays too, looking for hidden details in old artifacts, paintings, even seeing if there's a whole other artwork underneath the one we can see.
That's incredible. Like, being a time traveler, finding those secrets.
Right. For example, there were these ancient scrolls. Super fragile, couldn't be unrolled. X-rays helped read what was written on them. Who knows what stories they held?
Mind-blowing. One discovery, and it's had such a huge impact on, like, everything.
And it's still going. We keep finding new uses, making the tech even better. And with things like artificial intelligence, the future of X-rays, super exciting.
AI and X-rays, that's a combo I wouldn't have thought of. What's AI doing in this field?
Picture this. We've got these AI programs, right? And they're trained by looking at millions of X-ray images. They learn to spot tiny details, things even the best doctors might miss, the patterns, the things that are off. It's like having a whole team of superpowered assistants helping doctors make faster, more accurate diagnoses.
So, potentially catching diseases earlier when treatment has the best chance. Especially for things like cancer, where that's so important.
Exactly. And it's not just about spotting the problem, it's also about helping radiologists, the doctors who specialize in this, with their workload, gives them more time for the really tough cases or just to, be with their patients more.
That's amazing. Sounds like AI could totally change how we use X-rays, and for the better. Anything else on the horizon? Any other big changes coming?
Well, one area with huge potential is portable X-ray machines, like really portable.
Hold on, how portable are we talking? Like a doctor could carry one on a house call.
Yeah, exactly. Handheld X-rays, bringing that technology to remote places, disaster areas, even right to a patient's bedside. Makes healthcare more accessible, could be life-saving in emergencies.
Now that would be revolutionary. No more moving critically injured people, no waiting forever for a scan. It'd be like something out of like a futuristic medical show.
Right. It's a really promising area of research. Just goes to show how far we've come since that accidental discovery,
It really makes you wonder, though, with all this amazing stuff X-rays can do, are there risks? I mean, it is radiation, right?
That's a really good question. And it makes sense to be aware of any potential downsides with any kind of radiation.
So should we be worried? Is getting an X-ray dangerous?
It's interesting. We're actually exposed to low levels of radiation all the time, just in our everyday lives. It's in sunlight, even some rocks. It's really about the amount, the dose, not just that it's there at all.
So like a little bit's okay, but too much is where it gets risky.
That's the idea. Think of it like spending a few minutes in the sun. Good for you, right? But lying out all day with no sunscreen, not so much. X-rays are similar. The ones used for medical reasons, those are carefully controlled, very low doses. For most people, it's perfectly safe.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about those lead vests, at the dentist's office? Those always freak me out a little.
Those are just an extra precaution to shield sensitive areas like your thyroid gland, reproductive organs. It's all about minimizing any risk, especially for things like dental X-rays, where the beam is focused on a small spot.
So better safe than sorry. Like wearing a helmet when you're riding your bike. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But what if I'm still nervous? If I need an X-ray, is it okay to ask questions?
Absolutely. It's always a good idea to talk to your doctor or the technician. They'll explain everything, the why, the how, any risks, so you're comfortable.
That's good to know. Communication is key, right?
Definitely. And keep in mind, technology is always improving. We're constantly finding ways to make x-rays even safer and more accurate.
That's reassuring to hear. It's like the doses are already low, but they're only going to get even lower over time.
You got it. So the future of x-rays is really about maximizing the good, minimizing any potential downsides.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it, how one discovery has such a ripple effect. We've covered so much. Invisible beings, glowing hands, ancient scrolls, AI doctors. It's mind-blowing.
It really is, from setting bones to, who knows, maybe revolutionizing healthcare all over the world someday. All thanks to a scientist, a curious mind, and a bit of, well, a happy accident, you could say.
It really makes you appreciate how powerful science can be. You never know what you're going to find, what mysteries are out there waiting to be solved.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe someday we'll look back at the x-ray tech we have now, just like we look at those first images, blurry, kind of primitive, and be amazed at how far we've come.
It makes you wonder what else is out there. But for now, I think we've explored the world of X-rays enough for one day. So until next time, keep those questions coming, and thanks for joining us on another deep dive.